important part of our 2024 year ahead channeling was the significance of Pluto transitioning into the sign of Aquarius. It had been in the sign of Capricorn, which is all about structure. It was all about, I don't want to say playing by the rules, because when we, especially in the spiritual community, we can look at playing by the rules as something that is kind of frowned upon. I guess you could say we can look at it as something that is like restrictive, but the Capricorn energy of playing by the rules is what gives us structure, what gives us that container. In the writing world, there's a common refrain that you have to know the rules in order to break them. And that's this kind of energy that Capricorn gives off. And Capricorn moving into Aquarius specifically, you have to know the rules in order to break them. And Capricorn is what gives us that structure, that discipline that is healthy for us. It's only once we are anchored into that we allow ourselves to flow away from that we allow ourselves the flexibility, that we allow ourselves to have the discernment of when it is healthy to break the rules. When we're talking about these sacred unions, for example, which is part of the work that we do, the masculine and the feminine energy, you having both within you, it's your inner masculine that has the container with which to hold the feminine energy, which is that flow, which is that flexibility. So Capricorn wants us to have that structure, that container, to be able to hold that energy. That energy is not restrictive, although in a distorted sense, it could be seen as such. It's not meant to be restrictive. It is meant to be a container to hold, lightly hold the energy so that you know when to flow, you know when to express, you know when to break the rules. It finally shifted into Aquarius until 2043, which it will then shift into the sign of Pisces. And we're going to get into that too. So what we had channeled was that Pluto in Aquarius is all about authenticity and community. Again, Capricorn likes structure. And it showed us what is working and what isn't. It also showed us how to have a sense of structure within ourselves, how to have a sense of discipline within ourselves and discernment, and how to have a container in which to hold this energy. Moving into Aquarius, Aquarius is all about, again, authenticity, all about humanitarianism, all about innovation, all about doing things in a new way. So with Capricorn, again, that structure, what is working, what isn't working, Aquarius comes through and says, what isn't working, here's how we can shift it for the better. We have seen some destruction, and that is leading to creation. We have seen some endings, and that is leading into beginnings. Again, things happening simultaneously, both being held at once. We're literally seeing this play out in our collective reality. The age of Aquarius is here. Pluto in Aquarius is here until 2043, and then we're moving into Pisces. Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It is all about embodiment of that wisdom. It's rooted in spirituality. It's connected to divine truths. It is that Christophia consciousness. When I was tuning into this energy to prepare for this channeling, what I was getting was that Pluto in Capricorn, which is a 20-year cycle, 19 to 20-year cycle, was all about showing the crevices, showing the cracks in the lining, right? Showing where all the holes are in our society as a collective, where again things are working or things aren't working anymore. And that's where Aquarius comes in over these next 20 years and shakes things up and says, you know what, it hasn't been aligned because it hasn't been authentic, it hasn't been aligned with the best for humanity. And we've seen that. We see in our reality right now a lot of greed, a lot of corruption, but those things have been there. We're just shining light on that now. We have been shining light on that now. And Aquarius is the one that creates in order to bring it back into alignment. So then Pisces energy is the embodiment of that. Pluto in Aquarius is the ascension journey, the deeper dives. How can we shift? How can we change ourselves? How can we do the inner work that has an impact? How can we shift our energy so that we're shifting our reality? How can we create something new? What are the beliefs that we're holding? What is truly authentic to us? How are we in service to humanity, to others? How are we in service to our spiritual truth? These are all the questions that Aquarius brings up, but it's more than that. Aquarius will also take action on that. 2024 was all about seeds being planted, coming to fruition. And the focus was on community and reform. And we also channeled that we would be seeing uprisings and protests that were starting small. And we absolutely did see that. What we had channeled was that these protests and uprisings would bring more unity, even though it might not look it. It might look very divisive on the surface. It's actually that divisiveness is actually shining a shadow again on those cracks. Some of that Capricorn energy is still going to be trickling over, especially as we are just entering Pluto into Aquarius. Pluto's a very slow moving planet, and so it's not going to be, oh, Pluto's in Aquarius, everything's shifted. It takes time for that evolution. It takes time for that shift to really be anchored in and seen. As we are experiencing and seeing that divisiveness underneath the surface, we're also seeing a unity. We're also seeing a desire for community, a desire for more coming together, a desire for equality. We're seeing that play out. We also channeled that this was going to gain momentum throughout the year as a blueprint for change. So these uprisings, these protests that we're seeing, and it doesn't have to be protests as in protesting in the streets. Protests can also look like taking to social media, for example, and using your voice and expression of self as forms of activism. It could also be caring for your neighbors as a form of activism, building more community centers as a form of activism, as a form of protest. You know, there's different types of protests. There's different types of activism. When we're going through our initial awakening or initial ascension, we tend to think that it's only the energy. Energy is the most important thing, but energy is nothing without action. You have to act on your intuitive guidance, for example. In our teachings of the Sacred Union, we talk about the masculine and the feminine energy. And the masculine energy is active, the feminine energy is the energetic. The feminine energy will receive that guidance, but the masculine energy has to act on that. Blueprint for change, these uprisings, these protests are all focused beneath the surface on community and on reform and on unity consciousness and on helping humanity. These small protests, these smaller uprisings that we've seen have been gaining momentum and getting bigger because they are the new blueprint for activism. They are the new blueprint for change. And over the course of 2024, we did see smaller protests and maybe smaller uprisings be created as that blueprint and gaining momentum and getting bigger. More people being activists, more people expressing themselves, more people speaking out on injustices. We also channeled 2024 again, planting the seeds of change that we're going to start to see really take root. We also predicted new businesses, new social media platforms, new technology, and innovation, all for the benefit of the all versus the few. We're also seeing an individual to community focus that's part of all of this. We're also seeing a rise of the feminine energy. As the light shines on the shadow, there's a new consciousness that takes place. Let's move into notable astrological transits for 2025. The first thing that I want to talk about, and the most important, is the lunar nodal shifts from July 2023 to January 11th, 2025. The north node was in Aries and the south node was in Libra. From January 11th of 2025, this year again, just a couple of days ago, into August 18th of 2026, the lunar nodes are shifting. The north node is now in Pisces and the south node is now in Virgo. What does this mean? It means that we are now finding balance between our human self and our spiritual self. And again, if you've been doing this inner work on your ascension journey, it is going to be more effortless because you've already been doing this. You've already been conscious of it. You've already been aware of it. And so it's going to feel more fluid. It's going to feel more effortless. This is a grounded spirituality. And if you guys have been here with me for a while, you know that this is what I am so adamant about. This is what we teach. We teach grounded spirituality. We are meant to be spiritual beings and recognize our spiritual essence and our higher levels of consciousness and keep connecting with those higher levels of consciousness. But we're meant to bring that into our human experience. We are meant to still enjoy and be human. And so grounded spirituality is what we are all about here. And that's what Pisces and Virgo is all about too. It's about bridging that human and spiritual perspective. This is a collective awakening and ascension. The collective is going to be going through. So I'm hearing the phrase rude awakening, and I want to talk about that for a second, what they mean by that. The reason why it might be a rude awakening for the collective, again, if you're doing your inner work, you're good, you're golden. Yours going to be much more easy. It's not going to be as jarring. Spiritual community tends to avoid, tends to bypass, tends to dismiss the human aspect of self in favor of spirituality. Spirituality is a personal path. It's one in which you are finding and discovering the divinity within yourself, coming home to yourself, coming home to your own truth. And it's not about bypassing being human or avoiding being human. It's about recognizing yourself as that bridge between both. The reason why it might be a little bit jarring is because when you first go through your spiritual awakening, and again, we go through many levels of spiritual awakening, you can also step into spiritual ego. We have all been there. So I say all of this without judgment. We have all experienced that. When you're going through awakening, you start to see things differently, shift in consciousness. You see the world differently. You see yourself differently. And you can also experience pretty incredible phenomena. So you can step into that spiritual ego. It's about grounding that energy. And that's part of your ascension process. It's about connecting deeper to yourself and grounding that energy, not bypassing or ignoring the human self, but grounding that energy into your human experience. Anything that is inauthentic spiritually is crumbling. That again is Pluto and Aquarius. That anything inauthentic will be destroyed so that the authentic will continue to rise. So just make sure that you're not caught up in consciousness loops. Make sure that you're not getting caught up in another matrix by a different name, in the spiritual matrix, because the spiritual matrix exists too. Right? And so that's what's going to be crumbling too. We're also going to be seeing more compassion and empathy as we connect to our spiritual roots. And so you will also have heightened spirituality. There will also be a call to surrender more, to trust in your intuition as you let go of fear. I'm also getting the phrase, go where you're guided. So this is where it's about going where you're guided both physically and spiritually, metaphorically. Go where you're guided, trust your intuition, and take that guided action. Again, that's where you balance the masculine and the feminine. That's where you balance active energy with the inner knowing, the intuition, the flow, the guidance, the energy. That's where you balance your human self with your spiritual self. Pisces and Virgo, the lunar shifts, are also about spiritual service work. So you might be guided into deeper levels of your spiritual service work, into more authentic levels of spiritual service work, or into spiritual service work and mission as a whole. Neptune enters Aries from March 30th of 2025 to 2039. So this is a big transit here. I should say bringing visionary ideas into more tangible forms. This is where Pluto in Aquarius is really taking root here, because again, Pluto into Aquarius is all about innovation, right? So with the Neptune energy, it's having those visions, having those ideas, and making it tangible. This is where innovation is going to be important, and this is where staying practical and staying grounded is also going to be important. Again, Neptune is a very dreamy energy, so it's not enough just to stay in the fantasy. It's not enough just to dream. Where are you putting it into motion? Where are you putting those dreams into action? Where are you putting those visions or ideas into tangible form, into concrete form? Not just being in that dreamy energy, but being very practical, being very logical, and being very grounded in that. It is also about taking bold steps to realize your dreams. Leaders who embody spiritual wisdom and take action are those who champion unity. Again, we just talked about that a little while ago. This is where discernment is key. So you will have spiritual leaders come to the forefront now, but it's going to be those who are embodying that authenticity, those who are embodying that spiritual wisdom and taking action. It's those who are walking the walk, not just talking the talk. They are going to be ones who champion unity versus those who continue in the rhetoric of division. And division doesn't just have to be in speech. It could be in the way that they practice, in how you divide one from another. So that's going to be crumbling as well. So discernment is going to be key, especially as guides and leaders kind of come up to the surface. But we will be having more spiritual leaders who are in that authenticity, who are, again, champions for unity and love. Neptune in Aries also encourages a balance between the individual and community or partnership. And the way that this happens is it exposes the illusions around hyper individualism. But now it's about, again, being the bridge, about recognizing that support and community and partnership is also of value. It's the balance between the two. So we don't lose individuality, but we are also part of the whole. We are also part of that tapestry of creation. Neptune, that higher octave of Venus, wants us working in partnership with each other. That's the sacred union. That's the sacred union path of ascension in a nutshell. For more on that, you can either watch our sacred union energy updates and teachings in our Ascension Connections Portal on our YouTube channel, or you can get my book, The Unity Code. I go deep into masculine and feminine energy, union energy, and what that means with regards to conscious connections with each other. Eclipse season 2025. What does this eclipse season represent? It represents a focus on well-being and spiritual health, mind, body, and spirit all coming into alignment, which is also what our ascension journey teaches us. Again, it's fascinating that these astrological transits are support for our spiritual journey, for our ascension journey. And again, if you're doing that inner work, if you're in alignment with your ascension journey, then all this astrological support is here to help guide you and navigate you further, deeper into that. Your mental and physical health is going to be a priority in 2025, making sure that you're nurturing and taking care of yourself, especially if what you're seeing in your physical world seems to be too much. For the past several months, we have been talking about keeping your circle smaller and how important that is. That doesn't mean isolating yourself. That doesn't mean neglecting friends and family. That doesn't mean refusing to network or meet other people or expand your community. But this just means continuing to build and nurture the intimate bonds that you already have, including that with yourself. If the outside world feels too much, your most important priority is going to be to your wellness, to your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, and your physical health. The most important thing is that you are nurturing yourself so that you can continue to support and nurture others. Again, keeping your circle small does not mean ignoring or isolating yourself or ignoring community or ignoring supporting other people. It just means allowing yourself to nurture yourself too. What they're bringing me is the word priority. It is about prioritizing. Eclipse season is also going to lead to breakthroughs in sense of identity and sense of self. Seeing yourself from different perspectives. This might be shifting beliefs. This might be senses of empowerment, seeing yourself differently, claiming aspects of yourself that might have been fractured or fragmented. All about viewing yourself differently. This is all about higher levels of consciousness. As you raise in consciousness, you will naturally see yourself differently in a place of greater empowerment, in a place of greater connection, in a place of greater authenticity and connection to your soul self. Final messages is a reminder that you create your reality. And as you are creating your reality, again, it's that keep your circle smaller, you're creating your reality that has a ripple effect. Then it extends, it expands to create the collective reality. So as you are doing your inner work, as you're creating breakthroughs and transformations within yourself, shifting how you view yourself from lack and scarcity and worthlessness and I'm not enough or I'm too much, as you're shifting that energy into a place of loving yourself, honoring yourself, which enables you then to fully honor and love other people, respect, and taking care of, not from a place of sacrifice, but from a place of overflow. As you shift that energy from victimhood to empowerment, that has a huge expansive energy, because love itself is expansive. So it has a huge expansive energy into higher levels of consciousness, higher levels of being, and that has a ripple effect in your physical world. So if you're watching this on YouTube, we will be back with the 2025 year ahead reading. And if you're watching this in our Ascension Connections portal, it will be available so you can get right into it. All right.